Hello everyone, and welcome once again to Caleb Blake's Books. Today I have another book review for you, actually a graphic novel review for you, and that is for The Cats of Ulthar, A Tale Reimagined by Bruce Brown. Bruce Brown reached out to me earlier this year, I believe, and asked if I wanted to read this graphic novel that he and some others put together. He is a big fan of Lovecraftian horror. I believe some of his other graphic novels that he has worked on have drawn on Lovecraft's work. This was like a brand new one that came out this year, so he asked if I wanted to review it, and I said yes. So he sent it to me, and I just read it. And so I'm going to talk about it now. So this is a retelling, and as you would imagine by the title, a reimagining of the H.P. Lovecraft short story, The Cats of Ulthar, which is a short story that details within the city of Ulthar in Lovecraft's Dreamlands setting. Basically the story of how the outlawing of the killing of cats became a thing, which, you know, that's a whole story in there. It's a pretty short story. It only took me, like, I reread it in preparation for this. It only took me like a couple minutes. It's a fun little story. I enjoyed it. And it's one of the more memorable, like, really short stories that Lovecraft wrote to me. So I was curious to see how this graphic novel would take it. And it's pretty short. It's like 25 pages. It took me maybe 20 minutes to get through, if that. I really enjoyed it. I think it was a really cool reimagining of the story, and a lot of cool stuff to it. So the thing that I think that I found most interesting and striking about this graphic novel is the art style, which I can't remember the name of the artists behind this off the top of my head. If I can, I might like put them, you know, somewhere in so that you know who did that. But I really loved the artwork in this graphic novel. It was very expressive. It was in many places very vibrant, very colorful, very, like, really matched the tone of the story. And not only that, but it would like shift over the course of the story. Like when things were calm and happy and that kind of thing, the artwork matched that. But then when you lean into a little bit more of like some horror elements, then it really kind of gets more into that. And then when there's parts where there's some action or some violence happening, then it really reflects that very well. And the artwork really kind of has a much harsher appearance to it and things like that. It's really, really well done artwork. It is. I loved reading this graphic novel just to look at the artwork, because the artwork is amazing. It's very stylized, but it works very, very well. I really enjoyed that. I also liked the way the story was approached here, because in the original short story, it's kind of just told as like a regular story. It's essentially like, you know, these cats are being killed by the people in Ulthar, and you know, some stuff happens, and ends up, you know, then, you know, they outlaw the killing of cats because it ends up kind of going badly. And this kind of approaches that story in a little bit more, I think, of a nuanced direction, and also tells it from the perspective of the cats as like a bedtime story kind of thing. You have kind of a large cat, looks kind of like lion-ish kind of, telling this story to his two children as basically a bedtime story. And he's like, oh yes, this was our grandfather was the one who was like the one that kind of did this. And so it kind of takes it from an interesting perspective that you don't get in the original short story. And I think that's a big part of where the reimagining of this comes in, is taking the original story and the concept behind it, but kind of showing a different perspective on it. And that's something I think was really cool. I also really liked the way the horror elements were done in here, because the original short story doesn't really have much horror. It's more of just a weird and interesting story. Whereas this, there is a brief section, because I mean, it's only a 25-page graphic novel. So there's like a couple pages where it does actually dive like a little bit into like actual like Lovecraftian cosmic horror for like a couple pages. And it's really, really cool. And I really liked it. And I loved having that integrated into the story. So it kind of has more of that Lovecraftian-ness feel to it. So that was also really cool. Overall, I don't have a huge amount to say about this because it is so short, but I enjoyed it. It was a cool story. It was a cool reinterpretation of the original story. I would say if I have any gripe with this graphic novel, I actually wish it were longer, which is not even necessarily a big negative point because it's good as it is. It's just, I think it would be interesting to expand this story more and make it like a full length thing. I think that would be actually pretty interesting, especially the way that this approaches the story in such a unique way. I think I could envision this being like a full length graphic novel or even like a short animated film or something like that. I think you know it's a really well done version of this story. So as far as a rating out of 10 that I would give Cats of Ulthar Tale Reimagined, I'd give it like I think I'd give it like a 10 out of 10. Like I mean, it's not one of those where it's like, you know, greatest thing I've ever read necessarily, but I just have no real downsides or complaints with it. It was just a really enjoyable. I liked it beginning to end. It was really interesting. I loved the art style. I loved the way that it approached the story. It was just really, really good and really enjoyable. If you're a fan of H.P. Lovecraft, if you're a fan of the original Cats of Ulthar story, I would definitely recommend at least checking this out because I think it is something that you might enjoy and kind of that reinterpretation and unique perspective on like retellings of Lovecraft's work is something that I think is really interesting, where you get, you know, another one that I think of is something like The Ballad of Black Tom by Victor Laval, which is kind of similar in terms of like reinterpreting and retelling Lovecraft's work. This is kind of a similar thing in a different format, but I think it's really cool, and I really would love to read more of those because I think it's really fun. So that is pretty much all I got for you. If you have read Cats of Ulthar, A Tale Reimagined, let me know in the comments what you thought of it, or if you haven't, if you're interested in reading it, or anything like that, if you read the original short story or anything like that. And also, if you have any recommendations for Lovecraft retellings, leave those in the comments as well, because I would love to read more of those. So that is pretty much it for this one. So thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time.